What's up, guys? Welcome to Daily Dose of Reddit. This is your host that's finally watching Game of Thrones Season 8, Zach, and today's subreddit is r/ChoosingBeggars. Alright, this story's called Just Another Toxic Relationship Story. This story is from a little under a year ago now. I sort of understand the stress that led to the situation, and I don't bear the choosing beggar much ill will. But it and a good few other similar incidents informed my decision to end the relationship about 6 months ago. So this story, I suppose obviously, regards my ex. Back when we started dating, she was studying for her undergraduate degree at university. She was very bright and very interested in her degree, but she wasn't a great writer and really struggled when it came to managing her time and resources for written assignments. I found this out when, one day, a few months into our relationship, we were both visiting her parents for a few days away from the big city. I was chilling out in a different room and letting her get some work done. I knew she had a big assignment due at midday the next day, so I was making sure not to distract her, giving her space to work so she could get it all done and in on time. She comes bursting into the room, in tears, panicked, and scared because she just cannot get it all finished. She's already significantly over the word limit and has not even come close to finishing her argument yet. Now, I was kinda used to these kinda situations. I was a couple years older and had finished a law degree already. So, last minute buckled down essay editing was pretty standard stuff for me. I gave her a hug, wiped her tears, made her a cup of tea, and told her that we were going to sort this out. Over the next 8 hours or so, we worked as a unit. She wrote new content and built her arguments whilst I scoured the rest of her essay, cutting down unnecessary words whilst making sure that the meaning remained intact, incorporating her new content as I went. It took us all night, but we pulled that essay into shape and got it in on time, fully completed and exactly one word under the maximum word count. She got a first, which is the highest grade you can get in the British university system. This was actually a high point for our relationship. At the time, she was very grateful, very happy, and I felt very appreciated. We had made a great team. As time went on, however, I came to find that she was behind on essays more and more frequently. I would find myself rushing across the city at a moment's notice to fix up another paper, which was going to be in late again and again. It started to get a little tiring, as it was obvious that I was being used as a crutch to compensate for her poor time management skills, and began to feel that I was being taken for granted. I think she even realized this because when it came to her final dissertation, she told me that she did not want any help. She was going to do it all on her own. I was kind of proud of her for this. She seemed to be really buckling down, getting stuck into it, and was doing the bulk of the work with plenty of time left. It all seemed to be going well. In the final weeks of her project, I checked in a few times to see if she needed anything, but she was adamant that everything was fine without my input. That is, until one morning I got an urgent text from her demanding I come over immediately. Sorry for the excessively long backstory, but here is where the actual Choosing Beggars story begins. She tells me that she needs me over to help with her dissertation, as it has to be in by 2 p.m., and she is nowhere near finished with it yet. This panics me because I know I can fix up an essay in a few hours and make it acceptable, but working over a complete dissertation would be a genuine nightmare on such a time crunch. I write back that I thought she still had a few days to get it done, and asked if she'd had the date wrong. She responds that no, it is not due for a couple of days, and I start to relax. I tell her that I can be over in the afternoon to help out for the rest of the day, and probably all of tomorrow as well, but that I have to get some work done myself and that I'll need to go to the gym on my way to hers. That may sound kind of petty, but I had been using frequent exercise at the gym as a means of managing a pretty bad depression spiral for a while. It was the only thing to have worked so far, so my gym sessions had become very important to me. Even if I wasn't getting overly muscular from them, she knew why this was so important to me at the time. She did not like this though. She goes from 0 to 100 very quickly and starts chewing me out for not putting her first and doing my silly little gym thing another day. She tells me that she decided that she wanted this submitted by 2 p.m. today a while ago and that we have to stick to that timeline. I, for a moment, put aside the fact that I had asked her literally the night before if she would need any help, and got an emphatic no, and simply respond that I need to get this workout done to stay on my program, and that it is very important to me, but that I would happily come over after and work late into the night on her project, which would still leave us finished about 36 hours before the deadline. This just angers her further. She says that she doesn't want me to do that thing you do, where I try to negotiate a fair middle ground instead of raising my voice or getting into an argument. She says that this is too important for her to have a compromise on it. This goes on for a while, but through all of the anger and demanding, I can see that she seems genuinely scared, like she was that first night at her parents' place. Just a terrified student feeling in over her head in need of a little help. So I swallow my pride, put my needs aside, and tell her I'll be there in an hour. We live in a big city. That's the time it would take for me to get there if I left immediately. The whole ride there, I feel a weird mix of anger, sadness, and confusion. But when I got to the door, she opens it kind of timidly and gives me this kind of sheepish smile. All the anger evaporates as this just confirms to me that she was only scared and lashing out. Not ideal, but understandable. I once again give her a hug and make her a cup of tea, and we set to work. It's a harrowing ordeal. The paper is content complete, but it is thousands of words over the limit and riddled with grammatical and spelling errors. I work non-stop at it till late in the evening. We were never going to make it by 2 p.m., but with a lot of hard work, it is finally finished. With everything put in its right place, it's actually a very thoughtful and interesting project. I give it one last read over, smile, and hand the laptop back to her for her approval. She snatches it off of me with a kind of huff sound, as her attitude changes immediately. Over the next minute or so, she confirms that the work is done, checks that it's all ready to go, and then closes the laptop and immediately launches into an argument with me about how I should have come over immediately without being so difficult about it. I'm stunned. It slowly begins to dawn on me that she wasn't scared or sheepish or anything of the sort when I arrived at her door. She was playing nice so I would do her work for her, and the second she had gotten what she wanted, she moved on to admonishing me for not being immediately available to her, for an arbitrary deadline she had set for herself. I tried to reason with her briefly, but she was having none of it and just wanted to yell. Eventually, she made what I think was a bluffing suggestion that I should just go home, and I accepted the offer and left. It was late, and I was now crossing a dangerous city in complete darkness, sad and confused. I never did make it to the gym that day. Over the next few days, she didn't speak to me much. She was still angry at my initial resistance. Eventually, we got past this, and we dated for another 6 months at least. This incident really opened my eyes to the kind of person she was though. And over those last few months, I noticed more and more how unequal the dynamic between us had become. It all came to a head last November with yet another incident, kinda like this. If this post is well received, maybe I'll write about the actual breakup as well. Well, that ended up being significantly longer than I'd planned. I hope you guys like a bulky story. Stay safe out there and be kind to your essential workers. Okay, so I had a good think about it, and the breakup story is shorter and doesn't really have the same choosing beggar elements to it. So making a new post about it would probably break some kind of rules here, so I'm making an addendum to this already monstrously long post for it. Apologies to anyone just arriving here. Okay, so this is now about 6 months ago. It's important to the story for you all to know that I'm an extreme sports instructor. And at the time this is set, I was in training for a new qualification in a new sport. I was abroad for the training and qualification, and honestly was kind of happy for the break from the relationship. Things had been rocky for a while now. Many incidents similar to the above but on smaller scales. Back home, the ex was now working on her master's degree and applying for jobs when it was all over. This first incident happened in the first week of my training. I'd only done this particular sport once before applying for the course. It was an ab initio course, so doable but tough for a complete rookie. And probably predictably, I'd taken quite a major fall on our second day and badly bruised my ribcage. It was still hurting pretty badly over a month later, so you can imagine I wasn't in a great state that day. I get home after training, go straight to bed, and decide to call the ex before I turn in to see how her day went. The conversation went pretty normally at first, until I built up to tell her I'd been injured, and she barely reacted at all. That seemed odd to me. So we kept on chatting until, eventually, we had this exchange.
So, I had another interview today.
Oh, that's right. How'd it go?
Went great, I think. I feel pretty good about it.
That's amazing. I'm so proud of you. Which job was this one? There was a long pause before she said,
Pretty weird that you forgot about it, though.
And I just got this sinking feeling in my stomach, which had grown way too familiar lately. She was looking for a fight. I did feel bad for not asking about it, but this was the only time I'd forgotten to ask about one of her many recent interviews. And given that she knew I had been pretty badly hurt and barely even reacted to it, I started to get that same feeling of how unequal our partnership had become. So I won't bother you with the bickering that followed this, but once again, she was mad at me for a good long while. The actual breakup itself was a lot less dramatic. A little while later, I got home from training, sides still aching whenever I moved, and got straight into bed. Being able to lie completely still on my back was the only thing that dulled the pain. A long week of training caught up with me, and I just fell straight to sleep at about 5 or 6 p.m. I wake up the next morning at about 8 a.m., having slept all the way through, to literally dozens of texts and missed calls. She was furious that I had not called or texted her the previous evening. I call her to explain that I had just passed out from a mixture of exhaustion and pain, and she was having none of it. She tells me that she had assumed that I was out cheating on her. Some of you reading this may see how she got there, but I couldn't. She knows that I have never cheated on anyone, but have been cheated on myself, and I have very strong feelings about the subject. She knows full well that I would not have been cheating on her, and was only saying that because she knew how much it would hurt me. So that kind of settled it. We rang off, eventually, and I called her back later that night. A long discussion ensued, at the end of which I broke things off between us. I would have preferred to do it in person. I know that's a more fair way to end things, but as I'd said, I was in another country by now, and that was not really an option. So that's the end of the story. A few months after that Modelo kicked off, and due to the lockdowns, I'm still in that country I was training in. Managed to get my license sorted and find some work in the industry before it did, luckily. Hope you all enjoyed the update. Wow, that was quite the tale. While it's not necessarily hardcore and severely dramatic or whatever, it was so well written. Usually with super long posts like this, I get a bit of fatigue reading it, but I was hooked the whole way through. I was wondering what was gonna happen. How is it gonna end up? She's crazy, man. But good thing he eventually got out of that relationship, because it's hard to realize you're in a toxic relationship while you're in one, because usually it takes a while for the toxicity to show itself, so it becomes your status quo, you know what I mean? This story's called I Need to Rant. I work at an urgent care that tests for Brovid. We are the only ones in our area that does, and most of the other clinics are still closed because they are afraid of people showing up not knowing they have Brovid. The doctor I work for is a really awesome guy, so I'm not shocked he volunteered to do testing for our area. The back of the clinic is for Brovid testing and treating, while the front is for urgent care and primary care. There's a lot of new protocols. Majority of info needs to be taken over the phone, so the phones are always ringing. One person at a time in the lobby. Everything the patient touches needs to be disinfected. Doors are always locked. One door is for letting patients in, and the side door is for letting them out. And the last two I've been yelled at by people so many times now. We are usually a walk-in, but due to Brovid, everything is by appointment only. Lastly, everyone must wear a mask. We don't get a designated lunchtime, and to accommodate people, we've scheduled over it. The most we ask people to wait is 2 hours, and for emergency patients, no more than 10 minutes. People have slammed our doors, called us Nationalist Socialist German Workers' Party's members, tried to break our door open, yelled at us, tell us we're a joke, threaten us, refuse to leave, refuse to wear a mask, say we're infringing on their rights. The list goes on. Patients who I knew, who I talked to on a daily basis, are dead. A couple that came in often were dead in 3 days. We've had patients induce their own deaths because of this. I've had people call up crying because loved ones are in the hospital with Brovid and they're afraid. So God forbid if I ask you to wear a mask and wait your turn. Thanks for letting me rant and stay safe. Well, first off, given the nature of that rant, we must thank our healthcare providers, because busy and scary times now, folks. So the individuals that are directly helping these situations need to be respected and recognized for their work. So yeah, if you guys have crazy work rants that you just want to get off your chest, it doesn't even have to be something exciting like healthcare. It could be something lame like, oh man, this accounting job sucks, man. I don't care. Just let loose, my dudes. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.